Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the ITMOD podcast. With me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Come out to the coast. We'll get together, have a few laughs. That's the worst Bruce Willis. I know. I was trying to get the tone. Let's do that again.
Don't print it. Looks like Alexa. Wife Dork.
Wow.
Why don't you wake up and smell what you're shoveling?
Yes. And also joining us is Brad Gullickson, Mouth Dork.
Hans, Booby, I'm your white knight.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. Shoot the glass. And welcome to the ITMOD podcast, ITMOD Film Club.
To make that the ultimate quote, you need to say it in German first.
Schießen nicht Neichen. Mein Huhn hat meine Hausaufgaben gefressen.
Lederhosen. And this episode of ITMOD Film Club, Turtle Dork chose John Mc Tiernan's classic masterpiece, one of the greatest films ever made. My number 2 or 3, I think, of all time. That is Die Hard.
Yeah.
B, why did you choose Die Hard?
I don't know. I guess around the time when we were, it was my time to pick. Which
was like 7 months ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. I don't know. I was just been thinking about Die Hard and what it means in the history of cinema and in the history of action cinema. And this being, like you said before, it's a benchmark film in this genre. You look at films in the 80s with Stallone and Schwarzenegger. We never had that everyman action hero, and people really point at this film as really kind of setting the template of action films to come in the 90s, like with the films of Keanu Reeves with Point Break and Speed and those different type of action heroes that we were getting in the 80s. You look at certain scenes with John McClain. I mean, this is a man that's relatable. It's a man that's vulnerable. I'm sure we'll get to it, but like I think about the scene in the bathroom when he has his feet after the shoot the glass thing, and he's talking to Al. Like, these are moments that we've never really seen in a movie like this before. The closest thing that we probably may have gotten is like maybe the Rambo films, maybe like the First Blood, but that really comes with Stallone at the end of that film. But these more introspective,
and that's a Vietnam War story too.
Yeah, but to have that performance that Bruce Willis gives in these type of moments, we've never seen this in the action genre before. So this was, like I said, it's a benchmark film that I think really changed cinema.
Well, let's look at like the opening moments of this movie, right? He's flying in from New York City.
Yeah.
He's landing in Los Angeles. He is terrified of flying.
Exactly. And you get that from the very first shot. When you see him on the plane, he's clutching the airplane. So right then, you're humanizing this action hero.
So you have an action hero who's scared of something.
Exactly.
He's not like the Terminator. He's not like Schwarzenegger or Commando. He has a fear of something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And, all those, this watch, I just was obsessed with the first 5 minutes of the movie. The clutching of the armrests, talking to his neighbor, or his neighbor talking to him, kind of mocking him for being scared of flying, telling him, look, you got to do what I do, make fists with your toes, take your shoes off. Yes, sir, better than a hot cup of coffee in a shower.
Yeah.
And he is incredibly uncomfortable even within that fist with your toes exchange. And, he gets up from his seat. He has this moment where he makes eyes with the stewardess. And so the movie still tells you, this dude's sexy, okay? Like this chick digs Bruce Willis. Oh my God, Bruno. Whoa.
Yeah.
But that right there is important because fast forward to when we're talking about Jack Reacher, and you say there's Jack Reacher is Christopher McQuarrie just wants you to idolize Tom Cruise. He's this sex symbol. So we're in the 80s. We're telling the audience that you don't have to be Stallone. You don't have to be Schwarzenegger. You don't even have to be Jack Reacher, Tom Cruise. Bruce Willis, the everyman, a guy with a hairline that's starting to recede, is now, he can be seen as viewed as attractive too. Women can find him attractive. And so I think that says something without, being necessarily overt. But that's pretty important as far as, especially with image and what we look at people today and how people are viewed and our heroes and things like that. Like, he's not Ryan Reynolds. He's not like a pretty boy. He's not overtly like what you would call like super striking, handsome sex symbol.
He's also not sloth.
Right. But at the same time, like if you put him up to like, who even up at that point who were like the action heroes.
He's not beefy.
He's not beefy. He's not Van Damme. Like he's just a normal guy.
I think he's pretty cute though.
I think Bruce Willis is
charisma.
Cute. And that goes a long way. And that I think is what is sexy.
Well, what I love is, as he's going through that airport during the opening credits of this movie, the resistance he has to the LA lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
There's that couple that embraces around the baggage claim where she's wearing like crazy tight pants and she lunges upon her arriving boyfriend, husband, whatever, and he just goes like, fucking Los Angeles.
Exactly.
Because John is from New York.
You could tell he's a New Yorker.
But he's also like what I get from that, and then also the kiss at the party. He's kind of anti-public displays of affection. He's very reserved with his feelings and his emotions.
And that could have played a part in the deterioration of his marriage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is a movie also about him learning the stakes of his relationship and learning how to express this about himself. Plus the fact that he's scared of flying also is a fact that he feels out of place outside of New York. He sees himself as a single-faceted. I'm a New York cop. I don't belong anywhere else.
He's totally rigid, right? And now he's in the land of the weird, Los Angeles. He gets into a limo, his first limo ride. He refuses to sit in the back. He has to sit up front with Argyle. When Argyle puts on Christmas music and it's Run DMC's Christmas in Hollis, he's like, don't you have any Christmas music? Yeah. He's disgusted by everything. It has to be his way.
But also, I think that the scene in the plane, the events of Nakatomi Plaza, that limousine ride, John McClain is uncomfortable in a situation where he is not in control.
Right.
He's not in control of that plane. He's not the driver of the ride. He doesn't want to be in the back because he's definitely not in control and in the back. I can't tell you turn hero. I can't see what's going on. I can't be aware of everything that's happening around me. So there's a hypervigilance about.
I also think he's like kind of a class guy. Like he doesn't want to seem like he doesn't want to act like he's in another class than Argyle.
That, but he also even with his marriage and the exchange, the brief exchange they have in the room before. Things go tits up. That control thing and not being in control.
He does not want to be a passenger. He is a driver.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So great character moments, character building, great character period in an action movie.
In like 60 seconds of the movie.
Exactly.
This is all happening in the opening credits as the title comes up, as the credits happen. And not to mention, John Mc Tiernan shoots the hell out of these opening credits as dusk is setting.
Yes.
It's like the most beautiful 80s cinematography.
Absolutely.
And the looming dread of the Nakatomi Plaza as it's approaching, as the limo's getting closer, it feels like it's like Helm's Deep or something. Nakatomi Plaza feels like it's encroaching on McClain, and he goes to the lobby and he sees the cute toy, the computer. Whoa!
That's what I want to get to, but I want to go to Argyle for a minute because again, we're establishing that relationship with Argyle. So he's sitting in the front seat. You're learning more about his character. He used to be a cab driver. That's why he talks a lot. And then he pulls up to Nakatomi Plaza. He like, look, let me know if you score with your lady. Let me know. Then I will go ahead and leave. If you don't, I'll get you a hotel. I'll wait in the garage. Just give me a call. So you're getting character with him and building that relationship.
Also,
with
the
Argyle.
girlfriend had been in the car before. That's why it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
Even your peripheral characters are being well-rounded and fleshed out.
And that's the great thing about John Mc Tiernan. I'm sure we're going to get to John Mc Tiernan, and I think he really kind of does something great here that he started with Predator, because we see that in Predator with a lot of the secondary and peripheral characters, and Die Hard is littered with them. I mean, you talk about Argyle, you talk about Ellis, you talk about Al, then you have William Atherton, there's Richard Thornburg, you also have Paul Gleason as the deputy. All these peripheral characters who have great moments to flesh out this world and flesh out this story.
Well, I think you have to rightfully give credit to the writer of the screen, Stephen D'Souza. I think is the guy who wrote that. So he has to write those characters into the story, into the script. So before John Mc Tiernan can shoot them in those scenes. That's his name, right? The guy who
on IMDb, the writers is Roderick Thorpe and Jeb Stewart.
Well, Roderick Thorpe wrote the novel.
Okay.
And then I believe Jeb Stewart wrote the first pass on the draft, and then it was Stephen D'Souza who did the final.
Right. Yeah. And he would go on to direct the Street Fighter film. What the fuck?
All right. Anyway, interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Let's not talk about that.
but I think that
he also wrote Commando.
But I think outside of John Mc Tiernan's directing, I think that's the strength of Die Hard is Steve D'Souza having like that foresight in those days to write these types of characters in what's supposed to be an action thriller. Yeah, where we just don't. Even today, you very rarely, if ever, get that. Like in Taken, Liam Neeson is he's not your buff action hero guy. He's just everyday looking guy, but he's going on like this action movie trip or whatever. But you still don't get like peripheral characters that are well rounded
and that you connect with, that you can identify with, throughout the course of the story. Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but I think that's great. But one thing I do want to talk about, and I think another reason I really picked this film is because this was a film that is studied in film school, just because of just the story structure, the narrative, the character building. And one thing that I always talk about is like setup and payoffs. They call them setups or plants and payoffs, and we get that in the hotel lobby. So, and this is all narrative story structure. So when you're at when he's at the computer and he's looking for his wife's name, so he goes under M and sees she's not under McClain. So he's like, okay, she's under Gennaro, and so he's a little upset. But we're getting story because we learn about the fact that her name is Gennaro. We come to find out with Hans Gruber, that's why he doesn't know who she really is, like who she's married to. So all of these things are setting stuff up, for the structure of the story.
But also we know from the conversation with Argyle, he doesn't feel that even though that they have this physical distance, he doesn't really feel like they're separated. They are still, even though they're living on different coasts, they are still a couple. Mm-hmm. And then when we see that actually she is going by her maiden name at this point, he might be a little bit deluded about what the level of their relationship is, and that they're not on the same terms of what their relationship is supposed to be. And it does get further. She kind of backpedals a little bit with, this is a Japanese company. I need to seem like an independent woman. But I do think that and the fact that when he's coming by, they're not going to sleep in the same bed, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff.
See them at the start of this film, when they finally get into a room together, I think he certainly has one idea of what their marriage is, and she has another idea of where their marriage is. And I think without the interference of Hans Gruber and his crew, their divorce would have happened
imminent
immediately. It would have happened after that conversation. Instead, the divorce lasts at least another sequel.
That makes me so mad.
Yeah, but that's also a great moment too in that room when they have that argument, because again that shows some of the humanistic traits about John McClain, that he's not a perfect person, and when he gets into that argument and then she leaves, he knocks his head on the door. He's like, he knows that he fucked up. He knows that,
and that was also an opportunity for intimacy, and as soon as intimacy starts entering the conversation, he puts his
where he is, he's in the wrong place to have this conversation with his wife, right? He's just met Ellis, this cokehead asshole who's obviously on the make for his lady, and he encounters Takagi and this Rolex watch that they've just given her. She's ascending into power and he is being left behind. She is the breadwinner.
And the Rolex watch is another setup as well. So yeah, absolutely. So then you're absolutely right. But I like when that happens, when she leaves the room, that leaves them unresolved when all this shit starts to happen. So basically,
he doesn't know what to tell Argyle, whether to wait or whether to go.
Yeah, and so then when the terrorists come, then that sets up the tension, that sets up the drama, is the fact that now he has to try to get back to his wife, because now they have all this unresolved stuff from that argument in the midst of all this starting to happen now.
Yeah, so now you have to talk about, you said when the terrorist comes, so now you have to talk about
2 points.
The other great aspect of this film when we're introduced to the late great Alan Rickman in his greatest role.
Oh my God.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And this is his first film. This is his first film. He was a stage actor, I think, in England, and this is being his first film, and easily one of the greatest villains in cinematic history. One of the top 3.
The greatest.
Darth Vader? No.
F you, Vader. Gruber's got you beat.
Yeah, Gruber is fantastic, and the way Alan Rickman gives Gruber, he's charismatic, he's smart, he's intriguing, and he's dangerous, extremely dangerous, and you see that with the way he handles Takagi.
Well, he has a classical education, Brian.
That's right.
Yeah.
There were no more rooms to plunder.
And so another...
World's to plunder? I fucked that up.
Another cool aspect of the screenplay is how...
Conquer. Worlds to conquer.
Initially, Hans Gruber and his gang are set up to be... You think they're terrorists. This is supposedly a terrorist act.
Asian Don, baby.
Yeah.
But turns out that they're just thieves. They're just bank robbers.
Which is a great twist. Like back then in 1988, we didn't really see much of that. So that's, again, going to the screenplay, a great twist in the screenplay of something else that they did brilliantly with that, turning that around.
But their entrance is really setting up that they are choreographed to a T.
Absolutely.
This whole plan has been written out. Everybody has their job. They're rehearsed. They're professional.
But again, this is all happening in the first few moments of the movie. You see their introduction in that truck going down the freeway in the opening credits.
10 minutes.
It's in the credits. Yeah. You see the truck while the credits are playing.
Okay.
I did not notice that. I have only seen this movie probably 3 times, 4 times.
I've only seen this movie 7,000 times.
So we get the argument between John and Holly.
Yeah.
And at that moment, as John is on the phone with Argyle, there is the interruption of the Christmas party by Hans Gruber and his gang.
And here's gunshots.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now...
So, before we... I keep wanting to freeze the movie.
Yeah,
because
please.
The gunshots go off, and McClain, he's wearing the white undershirt, no shoes on, famously.
Fist with your toes.
Fist with your toes.
He's doing the fist with your toes, which again, the fact that fists with your toes set up the fact that he didn't have shoes on in that moment.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
Jan de Bont is the cinematographer in this movie.
Yep.
And this moment when the gunshots go off and he peeks out through the door and you have the blinds casting all these shadows on the walls. Yeah. It is the most gorgeous film noir shot. It is beautiful.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, I never noticed that. Okay.
And that, again, the removal of his shoes for the duration of the film, stripping the action hero of, the beefiness, first of all, the flawlessness, the fearlessness.
It makes him vulnerable.
And all the way down to removing his shoes and socks within this dangerous environment, really breaking him the archetype of the action hero, breaking that down. And it's one of the great all-time great cinematic characters and movie heroes. It's brilliant in how that's done. So the party gets broken up by gunfire. Bruce has got to get out of John has got to get out of that room and start thinking about, he's going into cop mode right now. So he's trying to think, okay, how do I get out of this situation? And I got to get back to Holly. So everything from this moment on is always about him getting to Holly. It's Mario trying to save the princess. It's him having one goal, and he has to get through multiple levels of this high rise and through multiple terraces to get there. But everything he does is to get to his wife. And I like the simplicity in his aim. Not having to to go after a MacGuffin, not have to destroy a pillar of light in the sky. I just need to get back to my wife, who the last time I spoke to her, shit did not end so well. And I think that just falls right in line with the everyman that John McClain is supposed to be. Like his not end of the world stakes for him. It's just my marriage. It's just my marriage, which to him is his world. But I just mean like cataclysmic, like end of the world for us.
And on the villain side, obviously you have Hans Gruber, but the film does a really great job of establishing every terrorist and the geography of where they're all located on the levels of Nakatomi Plaza. Obviously, Carl is like the number 2. Played by Alexander Godunov, from the Money Pit. But you like even like the lower, the Z grade terrorists. Al Leong, Dennis Hayden as Eddie, the guy who's at the desk. Hans Beringer as Fritz, and of course my favorite, Wilhelm von Homburg, who plays James, the guy with the bazooka, the guy from Ghostbusters 2. Like each terrorist has a significant look that is memorable, and when their moment comes, whether it's you're getting their knees shot out,
no more tables.
It's beautiful. It has almost a video game like boss level structure.
It's interesting too when we talk about like the villains, the terrorists, and then the heroes. I love what McTiernan does with kind of like subverting your, not just the expectations, but who you actually root for. Because if you look at the villains, they're so charismatic. Like when you look at Hans Gruber and you look at Carl, but you look at on the flip side, when you look at the FBI agents like Johnson & Johnson or Paul Gleason or people like Ellis, like you're looking at the victims and some of the heroes, and you're not really like kind of rooting for them. At some points throughout the film, you're actually not, I want to say you're rooting for the terrorists, but there's something about them where you like following them. You like watching them.
When agents Johnson & Johnson get it, you kind of love it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And there's something I thought that was kind of cool about that, how he kind of flips that.
And Paul Gleason is Dwayne. He's the worst.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool.
And speaking of villains, and one of the things that Die Hard does with the protagonist and antagonist that is different. And so, I'm going to reference Taken again. So in Taken, his wife or his daughter is taken. In the sequel, I guess his wife and his daughter are taken. And in John Wick, his dog is killed. So in a lot of action films, in Commando, his daughter is taken. So in a lot of action films, something happens from the villain. So the villain does something to directly affect the good guy. He takes something, he kills, the Punisher gets his family killed. Something is directly inflicted upon the good guy from the villain. So there's this personal vendetta. Whereas in Die Hard, that's not the case. Like Hans Gruber technically didn't do anything to John
McClane. He does have his wife held hostage. Well, she's been taken, Darren.
But it's more survival for him. He knows that he has to.
No. But I mean in that personally, like I'm singling out your wife to get to you personally. Like that doesn't happen initially.
He doesn't know why John McClane is there.
Yeah, he doesn't even know of John McClane.
He's a cowboy.
Right. He doesn't even know of John McClane personally to say, you know what? It isn't until later in the film when he knows. Okay, now I know who's out there throwing a monkey wrench into my shit, and I know that I have some leverage on you. But until then, he has no personal investment into John McClane.
Exactly.
And I kind of like that. I kind of like that.
I also really like the character of Holly. So like so as soon as Hans Gruber arrives, he wants to set up this terrorist facade. So he has all of the hostages, everybody, all of the employees of Nakatomi Plaza in one room, and he's saying, you guys, there's a legacy. You guys have a legacy of greed going all around the globe, and so we're going to teach you guys a lesson. And but what they're trying to do is figure out which Japanese guy is Takagi. So he's like rattling off all of these personal details about who he is, and all the way down to these are all of his universities and everywhere he's worked, and he has 5 kids. And meanwhile, Holly is next to Takagi going like, don't say anything. And you can tell from that moment she has a certain amount of hero in her, and that she's unflappable, and she has shit under control in her realm. And we see this unfold throughout the film after Takagi doesn't give over the codes, and he gets a bullet in his head, and then she's the number 2 of the place. She is then in control, and she's in direct negotiations with Hans Gruber, and he has no idea that that she's married, and that her renegade spouse is the cowboy.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that
she never gives it away either.
And the fact that Holly is someone who was married to someone like John McClane and did not, and decided, you know what, I'm going to go do my thing in L.A. You want to be this guy, you want to be this rigid guy, this is your idea of marriage. Okay, stay in New York and do you. I'm going to go and take this job in L.A. and I'm going to go take my kids, my daughter, and do Holly. And so the fact that before Hans even show up, Holly is established as someone who can take care of herself and put her best interests first and foremost.
And I don't think Bonnie Bedelia gets enough credit as Holly.
Not at all.
She's phenomenal in this movie.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And Harry wants a piece of her. She's got some sex appeal as well.
Yep.
She has cachet.
Yep.
She is her own action hero.
Yep.
Yeah, talking about the scene with Takagi when he gets killed. Talking about Hans Gruber and how dangerous and menacing he is, but yet being charismatic. I thought that was a very tense scene when he says, I'm going to count to 3. And, he's like, well, you're just going to have to kill me because he doesn't have the codes. And he ends up, shooting him. But what I also...
A great squib effect.
I was going to say, Brian, if you don't mention that fucking squib effect...
that was good.
I mean, you can't talk about Die Hard and not talk about the squibs. I love RoboCop.
Yeah.
That's, a masterpiece in squib work.
Okay.
But honestly, I think Die Hard is my ultimate squib film.
Yeah.
What? RoboCop is number 2. What? RoboCop's number 2 because RoboCop's more than squibs. RoboCop obviously has the condoms of blood exploding all over the boardroom. Yeah. It has Alex Murphy blowing up all over the place. Yeah. That's more than squibs, Darren.
Okay, all
but
right,
straight up squib work.
Oh yeah.
No More Table.
That was great.
Or the scene when the one terrorist is running and all the glasses are being shot out and that dude's knees get blown out.
Yeah, and he hits the glass.
Dude, those knees, man. Darren.
Yeah.
It's the best squib work.
It's dope.
It's great. But again, this movie has such great character detail and bits of comedy, which is throughout the film. But after he kills Takagi, when you see Theo and Carl.
They placed a bet.
I love Theo, by the way. He's my favorite.
Like he gives him like a bill, like a $10 bill. Nothing is spoken, no exposition, but in that moment, you know that they had a bet whether or not he was going to kill Takagi or not. And I thought that was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And Theo's reaction. So, excuse me. Theo can be looked at as unassuming and not necessarily as dangerous of all these other people, but again, something that's unspoken is his reaction to what Hans just did.
He's a sociopath.
Means he is totally in this world.
Yeah.
He is totally he's a sociopath. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Theo's off to be able to be okay with what he just witnessed and to know that, well, that shit was coming. I'm going to bet you $10 that he's going to shoot this guy. And so, like, that again, character building without dialogue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think, the hacker guy in an 80s film, like, that person is a master, because especially in the 80s, computers were such a tremendous mystery that if you could hack a computer, you were practically a fucking wizard, So him being this kind of diabolical, sociopathic genius, I find him really funny.
And think about it. Theo might be the blueprint for the hacker guy.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about it, because I can't remember an on-screen the hacker of the group, of the heist group or whatever. I can't remember one predating Theo cinematically. And I could be wrong. I haven't seen every film out there. If you're listening and you know of one, please hit us up at ITMODcast or at the Disco Dork and let me know. But I think Theo is the template he's the original, the OG hacker guy of the group.
Possibly. Yeah, I have to think about it. But yeah, he could be.
Because anything predating Die Hard, unless it's a futuristic movie, the movie is a science fiction. Like computers, again,
it's a cute toy.
It was new back then, so it wasn't like there were a whole bunch of computer hacker characters in film because there weren't a lot of computers. Just unless it was something science fiction-y, I think. So but I really think.
When did War Games come out, guys?
I know.
Shall we play a game? Yeah, but was there a group of bad guys and they had the hacker guy?
Yeah.
Theo is definitely the precursor to Fisher Stevens in Hackers.
Yeah. So that's dope. Like I never thought about that, but that's cool.
Nice.
This is also where we get the setup. So going back to Brad's video game thing, where we get the setup of there are 7 levels of the vaults. There's 7 layers of lockage of this vault. So we also get that timeline as well.
And something that's cool is that not only does, and I never really thought about this just now till you said that, Lisa. So not only does John have to go through levels of Nakatomi Plaza and levels of bad guys, the bad guys themselves have to go through levels of security. Their end game, their goal, they have to go through these different trials, so to speak, to get to their cash. So they got to go through John McClain, they got to deal with him, but then they got to deal with this security. So there's, on both halves, there are these stakes and these things that they have to overcome to get to that moment when the door opens up.
You get the sense from Hans Gruber that everything that comes up is just another domino in this thing. Everything, even like the cops being called, the cops showing up and then going away. Yeah. The cops eventually, they're going to be landing on the roof. So, like, you get this sense that everything has been predetermined.
It's Christmas, Theo. It's the time of miracles.
And it also plays into Hans Gruber, his whole plan, like you were saying earlier, Lisa, about how well choreographed they are. Because his plan is like, okay, they have the 7 layers of this vault they have to get through. But the thing is, in order to get to the last one, they need them to shut the grid down. Mm-hmm. So that's why he wants the FBI to come there. He needs them to get there,
and he needs them to arrive on helicopters because he's going to blow up the roof, and with the roof blowing up, they're going to assume that all of the terrorists are dead.
Exactly. So he's always one step ahead.
Every contingency.
He's always
covered.
He's always one step ahead of everybody, and it's brilliant. And like I said, and these are tropes that have been copied to a lesser degree in the years after this. But with this film, it's all done brilliantly in the way Hans Gruber plans this heist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Bruce Willis kills. He witnesses the death of Takagi. That he also he kills he's killed 2 terrorists at this point because he's killed the first one in the stairway. He tried to take his shoes, but his shoes didn't fit.
This is Carl's brother.
Carl's brother.
Yeah.
Feet smaller than his sister.
Yeah. So he grabs a radio, but then he witnesses the murder of Takagi. After they leave, he goes in there and he attempts to call for help on the radio. So this is when we're introduced to Al.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Reginald VelJohnson as one of the all-time great cinematic
when we
sidekicks.
see him, he's in a convenience store buying all these Twinkies,
yeah.
supposedly for his pregnant wife. I'm assuming some of those are for him.
Yeah. And so this is a great quote unquote sidekick character. One of the greatest that has so much more to do than provide comic relief or toss an extra clip or just drive through the wall at the right moment at the end of the film. He actually is a part of John McClane's character progression as far as what's revealed to the audience and allowing John to become more vulnerable. He's a proxy for John to be vulnerable.
But it's all, as Brian was saying, it's all about how he's introduced. He's introduced as kind of pathetic, comic reliefy with the Twinkies. Yeah. The gas station attendant is not taking any of his nonsense.
And he's got his own arc with the death of that kid.
And that's the thing. They introduced this backstory where the reason he's, pushing the beat the way he is because he just can't pull his gun anymore. He's riding a desk. Yeah. And because he, at one point, killed a 17-year-old child. He mistook him for having a gun on him, and he shot him and killed him.
Yeah.
In that moment where he relates that story to John, because John is also a police officer, they're able to bond, not just because they share a badge, but because John, knowing how much John loves being a cop, he can't imagine going through that. And so he feels so much for Al in that moment, and he sympathizes with him. So they have this connection.
And it's a great scene because you look at John McClane in that state. This is after the whole thing with his feet going through the glass, and he's at, he feels like he's about to die, and yet he's talking to Al. He's like, tell me about you. Tell me about, why are you, sitting behind the desk. And then John McClane feels bad that he has to let Al relive this moment. With everything that John McClane is going through at that time, he feels bad for bringing this up so that he has to relive this. Mm-hmm. So these are just that bathroom scene was just great.
Talk about a profound level of intimacy, sharing these extreme personal stories. Yeah. It's a huge step for John McClane.
It is, and I'll go
and
again.
What's the first thing that happens when he sees Al? They embrace a public display of affection.
And again, that's a huge step for the action hero. Like how often do you see an action hero become that vulnerable? Yeah, Stallone might catch a bullet, but then he's in a cave, like putting gunpowder on there, burning.
First Blood, like First Blood.
I'm talking about Rambo. I think that was 2 or 3.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of good stuff in First Blood.
I'm not taking anything away from that, but how
Rambo 3? Okay.
How often do you see a level of vulnerability there between two men, not just someone alone in a cave in the forest, but with another man?
Well, that's what First Blood is, Darren.
I understand it. How many First Bloods do we have, though?
First Blood and Die Hard.
Yeah. All right, all right. But see, but Bruce Willis and John McClane and Steven D'Souza, like, they were able to do that. And Reginald VelJohnson, like you said, Lisa, like, in a day and age where masculinity was, like, huge, even today. You have the first time they meet, they embrace. They shared a quiet moment. They shared
a very California moment. 2 dudes hugging.
Yeah, and that's a character arc that John goes on. He's embracing someone now, but they shared pain together.
Yeah,
and they weren't afraid. John wasn't afraid to let Al know that he's in a bad place and he's scared. Well, hey, can you tell me find my wife and tell her that
and
I'm
that's
sorry?
When they really connect. They really connect in that moment. And again, like you were saying, that moment he's becoming vulnerable because now he feels like he's going to die. So he's like, "Al, give my wife this message."
Powell has also been fighting the fight on the ground. Yep. Between him and Dwayne. Mm-hmm. He's the voice of McClane.
Yeah.
Inside the cops on the street at that moment. And, in the scenes where they decide to form an invasion on Nakatomi Plaza, and they're going to bring in the car, and these SWAT guys are going to blowtorch their way through. And, they set up the lights. And the terrorists, they're all prepped for that. And Powell's, he's the voice of wisdom. He's the extension of McClane's intelligence, actually, on the street. Mm-hmm. And I love the tension that Powell creates down there between him and Paul Gleason's, Dwayne T. Robinson. Dwayne T. Robinson's like, you can just freaking leave. He's like, you're going to have to drag my ass out of this.
Yeah. And in that way, Al becomes more than just a sidekick character. He is integral.
He's a fighter
to John McClane's survival. Had Al not been there, they would have just bombarded that place without him trying to talk some sense into them, and then also him talking to John and keeping him level headed. Like, shit could have went so much worse for them. Like, he actively had something to do with the main character's progression and survival and success.
Right. Yeah.
So that's another thing that you don't really see too much from sidekick characters who are more than just comic relief.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, going to that raid when they have the soldiers on the ground. Again, going back to like how John Mc Tiernan views some of the good guys and the terrorists. Like, you see that like when they're going up, you see the SWAT. Like, one that's like he gets pricked by the thorns, and he's like, ow! It's like he really like makes them look kind of doofus. And then like you got the terrorists on the inside, and what's the dude, the Asian dude,
Al Leong.
Yeah, like when he's like he sees the Snickers bar and he grabs it and eats it. These character details that you get from all this is just absolutely great. So I love that moment and how he portrays these characters.
That's Genghis Khan from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Mm-hmm. So I want to go back to we want to talk about John Mc Tiernan for a second if we're going to talk about this siege sequence and every other action sequence in the film. Another thing that, granted, I've never took a film class that talked about Die Hard, but I'm pretty sure it is studied. I don't disagree with you. But I guarantee you one of the things that's also spoken about is how geography is established in an action film.
Yes.
Because way before the siege starts, way before any of the action sequences start in any of the locations, way before that happens, you've already visited those locations.
Right.
So you know where they are in relation to another location, in relation to the hostages, in relation to where John is and where the terrorists are. Mm-hmm. And the film does that so expertly.
From the very beginning.
From the beginning of the film to the end of the film, everything is staged and set up so that you aren't disoriented.
Exactly.
Because you got to think, this movie is taking place in a high-rise with multiple floors, with multiple locations. And in no time are you disoriented and like, okay, where the hell is John? How did he get here? And so that scene when they it's established early on through dialogue that there is a certain floor of the Nakatomi Plaza that's unfinished. So you see that floor later on, multiple times actually, and then the roof of the Nakatomi Plaza is established, the atrium where everyone else is. So in the
vault,
the elevator shaft. So
and the lobby. So like when you first see him walk in, you see how the lobby is set up, where the elevators are, like everything.
And so I think, again, when you talk about filmmaking and where Die Hard stands in filmmaking and history, regarding action movies, a huge part of action films is the coherency of the action. Like, if you don't want to run the risk of losing the audience by losing your protagonist or any of the characters in the action, like where the geography of the location and how everything is set up. And I think Die Hard does that brilliantly. And so one of the things I want to talk about, Lisa, is like you are not a proponent of like action. Like, you love dialogue scenes, you love character in movies. But for Die Hard, I'm assuming, like, you, even though you've only seen it like 2 or 3 times, I'm assuming it kept you engaged. And I think that says something. That says something,
Because John McClane is an engaging character because of his flaws, because of his relationship. I really get caught up in, will he get to say these things to his wife? His relationship with Al, how their friendship grows because they're the only people who understand each other and understand the situation. And the fact that it does have those comedic moments, the the terrorists can flop from being buffoons to being terrifying to being clumsy to being, you know, masters in what they do. So it never falls into that over choreographed, by the book fight scenes that last forever. It's so funny because, like, even though this is a fight scene, there's always dialogue because John McClain is constantly talking to himself all of the time, which I think is so funny because I'm just like, shouldn't you keep it down? You know, since you're hiding and stuff. Button that lip.
It's great, though. I mean, going to that point, another thing I love about the film is how quotable this movie is. I mean, we were saying it in the beginning, and I think a lot of that, like, this is something I thought about. Like, you look at Schwarzenegger and a lot of his one-liners. I mean, those are one-liners that are kind of spewed out because the script is like, oh, I want him to say something cool. A lot of the stuff that John McClain says, or the stuff we've been quoting for the last 20, 30 years, is because those quotes come from character. Those things come from things that we can relate to. Like my quote that I said that I fumbled, we can relate to that because, like, you know, he's in an air duct, and we've all had that experience of, like, I knew I shouldn't have came here. If I just would have said no, I wouldn't be in this situation. And it's just like, so these are quotes that are relatable to everybody. And
honestly,
I think it's
this
great.
is, you know, as far as dialogue and quotes are concerned, it's the Casablanca of action films.
Yeah.
It's a film that if you'd never seen before, you're, by this point in 2017, fully aware of those quotes. You're aware of the scene in the air duct. You're aware of, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. I mean, you are practically born knowing that at this point.
Exactly.
But when you watch Die Hard, just like when you watch Casablanca, and you see how all these incredibly famous quotes actually interact with each other, each other quotes within context, it's a really beautiful miracle of a movie.
It is.
It works on the action level, but it also works on the screenplay level, the directing, the cinematography.
And it's not ham-fisted like the stuff that, like, some quotes just resonate. Like, you know, we quote Ellis, you know, all the time, you know, because he's just that type of character. You know, he's a buffoon, he's an idiot.
But like, how great is his final moment? Like, the build to that scene.
It's really good. I mean, what he does is stupid, but he does something noble because in that moment, he still doesn't give Holly away.
It's a weird sequence because, like, what is his intention there? His intention is to survive,
self-preservation,
right? Self-preservation.
Yeah.
But you're right. He could be a real scumbag and pull the veil out and reveal Holly and give Gruber a true, pawn to play with.
Exactly.
But he's so full of himself. He's so egotistical.
Well, he's got that coked up invincible
that
thing
confidence.
going on.
Confidence.
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier how I felt like, you know, one of the unique aspects of the screenplay is how there's no personal vendetta between John and Hans. Lisa, do you remember the first time they come face to face on the rooftop? Hans is looking for the explosives, and John finds him up there. Do you want to talk about that when they first meet face to face? How?
So when they first meet face to face, you know, like, we know that they've been battling it out, but you don't initially realize, oh my God, he's never actually seen Hans Gruber.
It's a Kirk and Khan situation here.
Oh, well, there you go. Everything is Star Trek to Brad.
That's right.
and
so Hans immediately starts doing an American accent and pretending that he's another coked up Nakatomi employee.
I always try to do that squeal that Alan.
No.
You're one of them, aren't you?
No, can't do it.
But from a character standpoint, how great is that as far as Hans as a villain to be able to?
Such a genius, because, like, he's never like, I am so mad at John McClain. He's never like, this guy has pissed me off and now he's got to die. He's just another uncontrollable element that he needs to
uncontrollable
that he just needs to get out of the way.
Because Gruber has to stay on target.
Exactly. So, like, when he knew that John McClane was in the elevator shaft, the guy Carl wanted to kill him because he killed his brother, but Hans is just like, just fucking close off the elevator shaft, and then he's taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. So when they're that moment on the roof, he's not thinking, oh, this is that asshole, I'm going to destroy him. He's thinking, how do I get the detonators? And so he pulls off this I'm just a Nakatomi employee act off to a certain degree. And then so like John McClane is kind of feeling this guy out, and so he seemingly has won his trust and is like, okay, well, I'm going to protect this guy, and we're now in this together. And he gives the guy a gun, and of course we later discover, as soon as he has the gun, Hans Gruber's like, okay, well, I'm gonna pull the gun on this guy. What an idiot!
So
I won his
this
trust.
was a ton of fun to watch. Lisa and I watched this last night, and because Lisa's only seen it a couple times,
And the way I watch movies is I'm not a Darren where I'm just like, and now the movie has been downloaded into my brain and I will now play it back to you verbally. I watch a movie and then I immediately forget everything that happened.
So Lisa sees McClane handing the 9mm over to Hans,
and I'm like, oh no!
Lisa's like, no, what are you doing, McClane? Don't be a dummy.
Yeah. I love that moment because it's a battle of the wits at that point.
Very, very much so.
Hans is on point in his game, and he's very perceptive. He's looking at John's feet to see that he doesn't have shoes on. He would use that later on in the shootout. John is trying to place that accent, but also listening to what Hans is saying, but he's looking at the names on that the roster.
Yeah, the Bill Clays.
Bill Clay.
So that's how he knows. So yeah, you have these you have these two going at it without throwing fisticuffs or without shooting, but you have these two minds going at it, trying to outthink each other and size each other up. And I thought that that's a really cool exchange for them to meet. To have them do that the first time they meet, and it's really cool.
Yeah, because we never really talked about how smart and intelligent Gruber is, but McClane is just as smart. I mean,
he's a detective, right? He's a detective, McClane. Right?
I don't know if he's a beat cop. Well, I know.
No, he's a detective.
He's a detective, yes. But yeah, I mean, him being put in this situation and to be able to think fast on his feet to handle this. I mean, he's an extremely intelligent and smart character. So I like the way.
Yeah, and the first time that he's really outsmarted is the shoot the glass scene.
Yep.
And that's what results in, because it's not like after the shoot the glass scene, that's when he finally gets really scared. And he's not scared because he's been shot. He's not scared because he's had a fatal wound. He's scared because he really does see that this guy might be smarter than him and will ultimately trap him.
And kill his wife.
And kill his wife. Yeah. And kill him. Yeah. And his feet are super ouchy.
Yeah, so we get that.
And bleedy all over the floor.
So much beautiful carousel.
So after that, we get the scene with between he and Al. But then, so now we're in the final act of the film. They want to move all the hostages to the roof. Lisa, you mentioned that they want the FBI guys to land a helicopter on the top because they want to blow the roof. That's why Hans was
including
up there.
all the hostages.
Right, and that's why Hans was up there in the first place, to make sure that the explosives were up there. And so now we have Bruce Willis. He makes his way up to the top to have everybody get off of the roof. Because he knows that they're going to try to blow the roof. Yeah. So there's a shootout there, and that's when you have that iconic moment where right before the roof is blown, McClane wraps the hose around his waist and jumps off of.
And the entire time going, "What the fuck am I doing?"
Yeah. And my favorite moment, John McClane moment, especially of vulnerability in the whole entire film, might be my favorite moment of the film, is when he jumps off the roof gets blown up. He has the fire hose wrapped around his waist, so he dangles down and he's hanging off the side of the building. He shoots the glass at the window to fall inside of the building, but because the roof has blown up, the thing that the hose is attached to falls down, and it's heavier than him, so it pulls him down. So he's struggling to unwrap the hose from his waist before he gets pulled out of the window. And the moment he lets it go, his reaction to "oh shit, I almost died" is my favorite. Is my favorite John McClane moment because, again, you don't see an action hero get that really oh shit,
rattled.
I almost died. I love that moment
because the audience can feel that. You know, you could feel like if he goes over that roof and the way McTiernan shoots it, where you know you're going towards that window,
it's a
like
POV shot.
You feel like you're going over that roof with him.
That's a brilliant shot too, because the camera is like it's sitting on his chest, so you see his feet, and you're looking out the window like you're looking down. You know,
and you know how high Nakatomi is, like where he is. Was on the 30th, but still, it's just
and so
that's a lot of floors.
And he unwraps that hose, and his I just made it. Like I love that reaction from Bruce Willis. My favorite bit of acting like he does in the film. It's amazing. And so at this point, so now they're assuming that maybe the terrorists are dead because the helicopter got blown up on the roof.
Yeah, Johnson.
And he's already, and you know, this is after he's also had this awesome beatdown with Carl.
Oh yeah, it's great, awesome.
And you know, just like how this has like the best squibs, the punches. The sound effects, of
great.
That fight.
The sound effects of the punches and even the gunshots. It's probably some of my favorite of cinematic audio for gunshots in movies. I love that.
It's a real brutal fight, and you feel the intensity of John McClain. Like when he's saying that line, like, you know, I'm gonna eat you and I'm gonna fucking kill you, I'm gonna cook you, and all that stuff. Like he has this rage, there's a
frustration in him. He's fucking tired,
like a berserker almost, like rage that he has when he's fighting Carl. It's just. You know, so
and he gets that chain around his neck, and then he sends him flying into the wall.
Yeah,
and you get this close up of Carl's hanging, not quite a corpse, but like the makeup on Carl's face, the blood
dripping off his.
It's gorgeous.
And then the payoff. I don't even know if it was a payoff, but when Bruce Willis has everybody get off the roof and go back down the stairs, there are people who are running down the stairs, and some people see Carl up there and they start screaming, "What the fuck?" Like, I love that moment. It's a small detail, but like you know, people going by and seeing Carl hanging from a chain.
Stuff's been going on in Nakatomi.
I know.
And so this leads us to the final confrontation.
Hold on, before we get to the final confrontation. So meanwhile, there's been this like TV guy character.
Oh, how have we not talked about William Atherton?
Oh God,
who's listening to police?
Like the true villain of the movie. Fuck Hans Gruber.
I know.
Fuck William Atherton.
Yeah. So he's been following this through the radio, and he's been bringing the TV cameras, and of course creating all of this distraction. Like nobody needs to feel like they're being watched while they're doing their fucking job. But then they overhear that the renegade in the building is John McClain, and John McClain's a cop. They get his address, they get Holly's address, and then he goes to the house and he threatens Paulina, the
with
nanny,
INS,
saying that I'm going to call INS if you don't let me interview these kids. That goes on TV. Hans Gruber sees it, and then he puts it together that Miss Gennaro and John McClain are a family.
Like the machinations of him finding out that they're together, like, it's so great. That
because you feel like character. It's never like it's just like foolproof plan. He'll never be able to figure out.
Yeah. Well, and the way they set up that family portrait being pushed down at the beginning of the film,
again,
and how that
great setup
in every shot of Gruber at the desk is over his shoulder, looming.
Yeah, like don't turn around, don't turn around,
don't turn around.
That's great.
Another great setup.
So then, but I love when he finally puts it together. It's not like Holly like screams and runs away. Holly faces him, and this is also where she figures out that he's not a terrorist after all. Mm-hmm. He has no ideals. He's just trying to get the fucking bonds out of the basement, and she just tells him to his face, "You're nothing but a two-bit thief."
Yeah.
I'm an exceptional thief.
I love that fucking line.
His reaction to that is great.
I think that's the only moment in the film up until the very end where he's hurt, and it's his feelings. She got him right in his feet.
She did it, not John McClain.
Not John McClain.
Who's blowing kneecaps off when Holly Gennaro did that.
And he's moving up to kidnapping.
But I love that character moment for her. She's such she's a fucking strong lady.
Mm-hmm.
This I want to talk about that I just realized while studying this movie is music. And
Michael Kamen, man.
Well, this is more so. Well, maybe the way he structured this, and this again goes to story structure and the subconsciousness of the music. Now, they're always teasing us with Ode to Joy.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So throughout the film, this is brilliant. Throughout the film, we're always hearing pieces of Ode to Joy throughout the score. So like when they first arrive,
this is Kamen definitely incorporated.
He plays around with it. So when they first arrive, you hear like the orchestra at the party. When they come off the elevator, you hear them like they're playing Ode to Joy. When Hans Gruber is in the elevator with Takagi, he's humming Ode to Joy. And then like even in the score, there's very dissonant sounds and broken sounds of Ode to Joy, but we don't get the full orchestra until they crack the safe. And then that's when you get the joyous Ode to Joy, and you give that to the villain, to the terrorist, that joyous moment.
It's awesome.
And it's like when you hear it, it's just, and it works on a subconscious level, but throughout the film, when you're hearing it,
you can't help but grin at that moment.
It's great.
He's a composer that nobody talks about anymore, and it frustrates the hell out of me. Not only did he do Die Hard, and
for a second I thought you were talking about Beethoven.
No.
Like, it's a composer nobody talks about.
He's got his due, Lisa. I'm talking about how he incorporated Beethoven into his score, okay? Michael Kamen's the true artist. Fuck that old Beethoven guy. Because this guy also did Lethal Weapon, Lisa. Beethoven didn't do that. Action Jackson, Roadhouse, Hudson. Okay, let's not talk about Hudson Hawk. Last Action Hero, also a great score. Not a great movie. I don't like that film. Sorry, Matt Constantine.
The Last Boy Scout.
The Last Boy Scout. Yes, I mean he's got some serious cred. He did the Iron Giant score. That's another great score. And he did Bryan Singer's X-Men, which okay.
I mean, it's a memorable score. But yeah, what he's doing in this movie, as far as with story, subconsciously with that Ode to Joy, is absolutely.
But it also reflects the structure of the whole movie, because the movie is about all of the pieces coming together in the end.
And it does show that Beethoven guy, he's got some chops.
And so now we get to that final showdown between the cowboy and the bad guy on the top floor, the 30th floor. And so now Hans has a semi-personal investment to John McClane. His team is gone. His dudes are wiped out. The bonds and stuff are blown out the window at this point, right?
And when you're watching in HD, those bonds that are like continually raining down, it's just paper, guys. It's blank sheets of paper.
Yeah, damn it. So then we have another callback to dialogue between that initial conversation between Hans and John, when he's like, you think you've seen too many westerns.
Oh yeah, you're a cowboy. Yeah.
And the Roy Rogers thing. I mean,
Roy Rogers. That's
so great.
That's great.
But after the showdown between Hans and John, we have that moment between John and Holly, where he's literally trying to hang on to her because she slips out of the window.
Oh yeah, with the Rolex watch.
Yeah. So we have to call back to that watch as well. And her fear. Well, so we talk about that shot, Hans' final moment.
That's a great blue screen shot.
That's a great blue screen shot, but that very real reaction.
Yeah, because how they shot that. Because they lied to him about the count, and then they dropped him. So without him being ready, and so that was a real reaction.
So he really shit his pants.
Yeah, when they shot that.
And so that's great. And so then we have, Holly and John. They're downstairs. And we have that moment where John finally meets Al. Mm-hmm. And again, in this action movie, you have this extremely touching moment. Like, extremely touching moment.
And they don't say a word.
It's crazy, because to me, it's more touching than when John is reunited with his wife.
Well, it works twofold, because when he meets Al, they have that warm embrace. But then, we get that resolution. He introduces Holly as Holly Gennaro, and then she's the one that says, no, Holly McClain.
And then we finish out Al's arc, because Carl isn't dead. He shows up.
It's a little weird to watch this film in 2017 and see a policeman learn to kill again. But see, that's
he's protecting.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, when he fires the gun and you get that close up shot of the barrel and he's just blasting Carl to death. But at the same time, But at the same time, the look on Al's face, it's not a joy.
Yeah, it's not. Right. Yeah, like he was. I think he did not. He was not happy that he had to come back to that place.
To be honest, when this movie came out in '88, it works because it has. I mean, it's been done over and over again to a lesser degree now, 2017. But
I'm not slighting the movie. I'm just saying where I'm personally at right now. It's awkward.
No, I agree. But yeah, I mean, I think it works for the film. I mean, it's been done in the 80s.
Cheap shot, Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, Lethal Weapon did it with Gary Busey. When the villain comes back and one last, and you have to like fire. So I mean, I think Lethal Weapon does it great. I think Die Hard does it great. But yeah, nowadays doing that.
But I think Die Hard does it best because of who pulled that trigger and what that meant for that character. And what it meant for the character.
I'm just saying. In the era post Fruitvale Station, it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And so Argyle shows back up. He almost catches a bullet. John was like, "Oh, he's with me. That's my ride. That's the Uber. I call the Uber guy. Don't shoot the Uber driver."
So maybe I'm jumping ahead here, thinking about the sequels of Die Hard. But the guy I always wanted McClane to get back with is Powell.
Yeah.
Because he has like 2 seconds of across the continent
in Die Hard 2.
Yeah. And Argyle. I want to see what their adventures are.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, we got to talk a little bit about the sequels. I mean, they exist. They exist.
And here's the thing.
But they're not. This movie lives in its own realm.
Yes.
I mean, this movie is something special. And to be honest, it's the perfect action film. Mm-hmm. It's the perfect action film. Mm-hmm. The sequels don't.
No. It's a perfect film.
It's a perfect film,
but it is also the perfect action film.
But the sequels just don't. I mean, the second movie that does everything that the '80s did. It's like, let's do the second movie, but let's just do it bigger and just do the same thing over again.
This is not the Die Hard 2 cast.
No.
This is not my place to defend Die Hard 2.
Die Hard 2 is fucking great.
But it's a ton of fun.
It's fun.
It is a repetitive, ridiculous, I was going to say 80s, but I guess it's
1990.
Yeah, so 80s-like sequel.
Yeah.
It did not learn the lessons of the original film.
No.
But I love watching Die Hard 2.
I do too.
It's fun in the same way that Predator 2.
So violent.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah, butt naked William Sadler doing Tai Chi in his bedroom.
Dennis Franz and the
F-bombs. Yeah.
I mean, and McTiernan comes back for With a Vengeance, and I like With a Vengeance. I mean,
okay.
I do. I like With a Vengeance.
It's fun.
But ultimately, none of them live up to what this movie and what this movie means in the history of cinema.
And we don't need to talk about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
What?
No.
Oh, all right.
It's a trilogy.
Oh.
And Holly got to punch the newsman.
Yes.
Holly got to deal the striking blow to the film's true bad guy.
He got his comeuppance.
So Holly did that. Did you get that? So then you end with Let It Snow.
And smooching in the back of a limousine.
My favorite Christmas movie.
Well, see, that's another thing.
I love watching it in July. Christmas.
I mean, we didn't have any questions, but I did want to pose this to our listeners because I've had conversations. Is this a true Christmas film?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so too.
Yeah, it has Christmas music. It's about a Christmas party. It's about family and togetherness.
Because some people will say it's a Christmas setting, but it's not about Christmas.
It is about Christmas. It is about family. It's as much a Christmas movie as It's a Wonderful Life.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
It's the prioritization of relations of people.
It's people coming back together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's reunion.
Yeah.
Through bloodshed.
Yes, and then the baby Jesus.
Oh, was it Argyle?
Yes. I wanted Die Hard themed nativity. Where just Argyle is in the little manger.
That would be cool, yeah.
Somebody make me that. Cuddles and Rage.
Johnson and Johnson are the two wise men. And Dwayne is the third, but he's not so wise, so it's a wink.
I was in junior high school.
Yeah. Oh, Robert Davi?
Robert Davi, man,
man.
great.
Yeah.
Johnson are great.
Yeah.
So,
No relation.
Die Hard. Initially,
It's a great film.
I was like, why did Brian pick Die Hard for Film Club? Like, he just couldn't think of anything else.
No,
that was an easy one.
I-
But I would just say, I initially thought that I was going to, because I didn't go back to rewatch it, admittedly, for this conversation. So I thought I was just going to sit back and let Brian and Brad talk about Die Hard. But I got to say, it is one of those films that if you've seen it and you know it, I mean, you can't help but just, stole the virtues of the filmmaking.
I mean, it's a movie that lives inside me.
Yeah,
like
same.
it's a part of my being.
Yeah.
And so good looking out on that pick, Brian.
Yeah.
Listeners, we hope that this podcast, this episode, inspires you to go back and revisit the film if you have not already. As always, please hit us up on social media so we can continue the discussion. I can talk about Die Hard all day. Just not the third, fourth. So how many? There's 5. There's really 5.
I'll talk to you about 2 and 3.
Yeah,
I'm not talking to you about 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Especially 5.
Yeah, no, that doesn't exist.
Like, honestly, 4 and 5, the biggest problem is McClain shaved his head. McClain would not shave his head. McClain, unlike Willis, he has accepted his receding hairline.
And he's not McClain. That's not John McClain.
That's not John McClain.
I mean, 4, I think, is just a good action film if you look at it as that. But it's not Die Hard.
Is it?
I mean, it's okay.
Timothy Olyphant, what a waste.
I love Timothy Olyphant.
Yeah.
But what a waste.
That's Raylan Givens.
Yeah.
But
I want to see John McClain, but we're not going to get that character
But
back.
here's the thing. I don't. Like, I would have been perfectly
Well, I'm
fine
saying
if Die Hard had just ended. Like,
Well,
this
that's
is a
fine.
movie that didn't need sequels.
I mean, after I'm cool with Avengers. Those are already made. But in this new era of film, like 4 and 5, we didn't need those.
the remake is coming within the next 10 years.
Oh my god!
I guarantee you.
But the thing is like they've
coming.
remade it 1 billion times. Under Siege, Speed.
No, but the remake, and they're going to call it Die Hard, the reboot or whatever. That's coming within the next 10 years.
Okay, all right. Well, now you've made it happen, Darren. Who do you cast as John McClain?
Someone who, again,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
No, he's too handsome.
Yeah,
He played him in Looper. Played the younger
Yeah.
version.
Yeah, he had some digital help.
Oh yeah, it was.
Prosthetic help.
I would want. I can't think off the top now, but I would want someone who was just as unassuming as Bruce Willis was at that
Ansel
time.
Elgort.
Zac Efron.
Yeah, we never talked about.
But someone who hasn't done action, because that was the big thing with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, that's
He
the
came
thing.
off of Moonlight.
Yeah, because we never really talked about Bruce Willis at that time. Him coming off of Moonlight, not being known as an action star, and this really kind of catapulting him into that icon with Stallone and Schwarzenegger.
Jack Black.
Aww.
That
I
might
love
be dope.
Jack Black.
Yeah, I like Jack Black too.
I do like it. I do like him.
But I don't. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Don't remake Die Hard.
Don't remake Die Hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Go back and watch the film. You can catch Brian at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and Ryan William Young on Facebook.
Are we going to announce the next round of homework?
Who gets homework?
Yeah, Lisa gets homework.
Oh, I can. I give it to her, but you want me to? You want me to announce it?
Yeah.
This is the thing, though. I'm not ready to announce what our next film club is because I didn't think about it.
That's all right. We got a
Okay.
homework announcement.
Okay,
for
you're
you.
we
gonna
got
give me
time.
homework first. Okay.
Okay, we got
I'm ready.
time. Okay, I don't have the movie. I know we're not going to start until a couple of weeks because we have
Why not?
because we have Comic-Con
Comic-Con.
coming up.
Ooh.
Yeah, so once we return and we get that out of our system, it'll never be out of our
That'll take
system.
like 2-3 months.
Yeah, then we'll continue with homework. But when we do return, I will be giving Lisa White Man Can't Jump.
Oh, I've never seen it. I guess it's the point of homework.
Yes, and
Is that VF?
We might have to.
Well,
check
I'm going to watch
Chris
it.
knows.
Yeah, I still have to purchase it, and I'll watch it. If it is, I have a backup. But
Well, you can just tell me what the scene is, and Brad can close my eyes.
I don't believe it is.
I think it's VF.
Yeah, but I picked this because, like I said, homework is something that we want to give. Something that's out of your realm. And I know, Lisa, that you're not really like a big sports fan. And even though this is not like organized sports, this is more like street ball. But I think it's still sports. But I think you'll kind of maybe get into the character and the character dynamics. And I'm really interested to see your take on the character of Gloria.
Brian, this was
played by
an
Rosie.
opportunity to give her bad boys.
I know, but I don't know why. I've been thinking about White Man Can't Jump, and I really like that movie. And I'll be interested to see what Lisa's take on that is.
I'm stoked. Thank you.
I think she's really going to dig Rosie Perez.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what you think about Gloria. Okay. Yeah.
All right, good pick. You can find Wife Dork at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Brad is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. And of course, I am Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, but not Untapped. Thank you, everyone, for listening. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be on the lookout for our Fistful of High School, because tomorrow we're going to go see Spider-Man Homecoming, and then we got a Fistful of High Schools related to that. A week after that, be on the lookout for our Comic-Con preview cast. Rap Dork is going to stop by because we're going to do a trespass cast.
That rhymes.
Yeah. And also, we're going to do our review cast for War of the Planet of the Apes. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. And until next time, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.